Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. I'm Vickie Hormuth. I'm the Executive Director of AIARE, and we're really excited to be hosting the third of our 3 provider webinars that we're presenting to you all this fall to help you kind of get your back office in order. Today, Sarah MacGregor, who's AIARE's Member Services Manager, will be presenting a webinar about managing your providership. So I have a couple of slide announcements to run through, and then we will go ahead and get started. Make sure your video is turned off and your mic is muted. We will definitely have opportunities to ask questions at the end. But if any questions come up during the presentation, feel free to enter them into the Q&A feature, which should be located at the bottom of your screen, and we'll keep an eye on those. You can also raise your hand if you'd like to ask a verbal question. And yeah, if we'll see him, we'll interrupt the presentation and get your questions answered. It should be pretty casual today with a small handful of folks. So we want to answer all your questions and get all your resources in, so don't be shy. Just a reminder that this webinar is being recorded. That's so that we can put it on the resources page for all of our providers to take a peek at whenever they have an opportunity or question. And while this is the last of the provider webinars, we do have an incredible series for AIARE instructors that has been ongoing, but there's a great one tonight about the online learning curriculum update and several others. So head on over to the continuing education page on our website and check those out and get registered. I think we've got room in all of those. And I'll go ahead and drop this link in now, but also at the end. We do love your feedback on our webinars and how we're doing, and would love to hear any suggestions that you have moving forward. So take a snap of this with your camera and take a quick survey. And again, I'll have this at the end if you want to wait to give feedback till the end of this webinar. And without further ado, I will give the reins over to Sarah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Vickie. And hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. So basically, what I'm going to run through today is kind of all the administrative details of managing your providership. We recognize that we're kind of asking you to do a lot administratively, and we just want to make sure that you have the resources and the understanding of like where to find everything. So this is especially useful for anyone who is new to managing your providership, or maybe you've been here for a while, and hopefully we can give you a couple little tidbits about how to kind of manage everything. So I'm just going to start by sharing my screen. Let's see. Okay, so I've logged in as a provider. I'm here as a provider demo account, and I'm going to just take a minute to kind of walk through your dashboard. So let's just start at the top here. These items are mainly for just students, so you don't really have to do anything here unless you would like to reset your password. You can do that under account info. And there's also a place where if you want to just change the name that's associated with your provider account, like your personal name, you can change that name here. But otherwise, all of these details are kind of just personal individual details and aren't really relevant to the provider account as a whole. And I'll show you here in a second where you can change any sort of details that are displayed to the public where future students can find you here in a second. But first, while we're up here, this classes and certificates, it's kind of confusing, but that's also just for like individual classes. If for whatever reason you as an individual have taken any classes using the email address, the same email address that you use to log in for your provider account, then you'll find those classes here. But for the most part, most providers try to keep like the organization account separate from the individual account. So this won't be relevant to any of the courses that you are actually providing. And so we're just going to go ahead and skip on down to the real meat of managing your account here. So the provider info, that's where you'll manage any of the details that will display to the public so that students can find you. And so there's a little bit new form. We actually just updated this form. So you'll fill out any details that you want to showing to the public right here. So it's listed underneath each field. This field is displayed to the public. So this is your name, your website, so people can book with you, and all of these important details that you'll want to make sure are up to date and accurate. And then, of course, when your certificate of insurance expires, we'll send you a reminder letting you know that we need a new copy of that new certificate. And you can upload that here or just send it my way, email it over to me. I'm super happy to upload it for you as well. And this is where you'll find any provider agreements, or you can where you can upload your current season provider agreement as you are renewing for this season. So we'll just head back to our dashboard here. Let's jump straight to renewing for the season. This webpage right here, provider status requirements, is where you'll go to find every single little piece of instruction that you need to understand how to renew for the upcoming season. So as you can see, for my demo account, it said the action was required. And there's really only 3 things that we're asking for you to complete before each season. And all of the instructions are laid out here. So sign the provider agreement and then upload it where on that form that we just showed you. We need your current certificate of insurance, and we need you to pay provider dues. And like I said, all the instructions are right here. And Vickie, I do want to just say, like, as I'm rolling through this, if you have any thing to add, please feel free to just chime in. What's that?
No problem.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks. Cool. So let's just go here, ordering your resources. Buy field books and rescue cards. You're just going to click right there. And please note that the field book, the provider rate field book is restricted to current providers. So if it's only allowing you to buy one field book at the public rate of $25, then the reason is because you're not quite current yet. And if you experience any issues with that, please just reach out to me. But you'll just go to the product, add it to your cart, and check out from there. Same with rescue cards. And so while we're here, I did want to just give you a quick update. As you might have been aware, there have been a lot of shipping pricing changes ever since COVID. Shipping costs have gone up, and we've been impacted by that. And so we did have to reflect that in the cost of our field books this year. So now field books are $17 per book, and $15.50 if you order in quantities of over 50. $14.50 in quantities over 50. And then our avalanche rescue cards, we're really excited this season. We have a field friendly rescue card. Previously they've been cardstock, and they've kind of been not very great in the field. As soon as they get wet, they'll kind of just disintegrate. So now we have field friendly rescue cards, and those are a little bit more expensive. So those are $1.50 per card. And we ask that you order those in a minimum quantity of 25. And
I'll make a plug also. If you haven't yet placed your orders yet, please do so that we can get them to you in time for your first courses in January. Mail starts really picking up in volume mid-November, and that means that it takes a little bit longer for us to ship these products to you. So yeah, take a look at your courses you've got coming up and place that order whenever you can.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for chiming in with that. As y'all know, the holiday craziness can come quick, and we don't want there to be any delays with getting your resources to you. And then that student manuals links directly to this provider resources page. So let's just go ahead and go straight to the provider resources page right here from the dashboard. And I'm going to just go straight to student manuals here. We provide the link to the PDF of that manual so that if you have a preferred printer to print your manuals, you can go ahead and just send this file over to them. But we also have already uploaded these documents into Mimeo, which is a different online printer. It's just on demand, and you can also order your student manuals if you prefer just straight through Mimeo. It's already set up with a spiral bound, and the cover preferences are already selected. So if that's easy for you, you can totally use Mimeo. You don't have to provide hard copies of the student manual to every student, but we do ask that for any student who requests a hard copy, that you make those available to them. And that's just so that we're being respectful of different learning styles as well as different access to technology. So providers may opt to manage that in different ways. You might just provide a hard copy for them to keep, or some providers just have hard copies on hand for them to use throughout the course and then ask that those be returned. How you manage that is up to you, but these student manuals, you don't have to share them with students because they already have access to the student manual, the most current version, via their online learning that you can give them access to. And we'll talk more about the online learning here in a little bit. So let's just kind of back up here to the top of the provider resources page. We have this provider marketing toolkit that, well, first of all, this page isn't available to you until you're fully current. So if you're like logging in and you don't quite see it, that's why. We hired a full-time marketing director this year, Whitney Bradbury. She has been with us in a part-time capacity previously, and we're really excited to have her on in a full-time capacity this year. So she put together this really awesome toolkit for you, and she's also available if you are already current, then she's most likely already reached out to you, providing this toolkit to you and providing her expertise to you. So definitely take advantage of her. She wants to see you, we all want to see you succeed on every level, and obviously, especially in your ability to have successful AIARE courses this season. So take advantage of Whitney and check out this provider marketing toolkit if you are current and haven't already. And then we've provided our logos for you, and you can use those as you like so that you can get the AIARE word out on your website or your marketing tools, social media, wherever you market. We have provided a link to our YouTube channel where we're posting provider resources. So we do have our other 2 provider webinars that we have already hosted this season. And there's a couple other links there for you to check out to support your success. And then I went ahead and just included this up here. It's actually here twice on the page. But this is just a little video that I put together that you are welcome to just link in your pre-course emails. It's just a real quick instructional video for your students to understand how they can actually get logged in to access the online learning. So check that out for yourself, and then definitely get that out to your students. And then skipping past student manuals, we have all of our teaching resources, right? So we have all PowerPoints, check for understanding quizzes. These are all resources that you can choose to use or modify for whatever student you have, just in whatever way you need to meet your students' learning outcomes. And then there's a couple other resources down here: avalanche formation and release summary table, tracking the season's conditions spreadsheet, and fillable AIARE field book. And then we have some resources that you're totally welcome to share with your students. So your students will get access to the Onyx Backcountry and a Gaia link to access those mapping platforms for free. Those will be in the post-course email. So after you upload the roster, they'll get access to be able to use those mapping tools. And then Caltopo, the way that we have it set up is for you to be able to share access to Caltopo before your course. And if you choose, you're more than welcome to give access to Onyx and Gaia as well before the course. It's up to you. But we have these resources available to your students to support meeting learning outcomes and a successful course. I'm just going to kind of skip down here. Every provider has a unique CalTOPO course link, and this link is just one link for all your students this season. Those links are accurate as of today, well, as of last week. So you can find these links now, and if you don't see it there, let me know. We'll get you one. And then, of course, your online learning codes are the same as they have been in previous years. And these ones that I have right here are just the basic codes for instructors and providers to use. So these aren't the codes that you'll be giving to your students, but whatever code you see here when you log in is the code that you'll be giving to your students. And just a quick note that you want to give them the code that follows the colon. So AIARE 1 is not a part of the code. It's just in this circumstance, Prova 1 to access the AIARE 1 online learning. Anything, let's go back. Anything to add about mapping tools and partner discounts, Vickie, before I kind of move on?
Yeah, just to emphasize that we do have, like Sarah is showing here, Onyx Backcountry and CalTOPO. We did just get information from Gaia, so all AIARE instructors get a free subscription to Gaia, and then students get a free 60-day trial. We don't really push that information except for the CalTOPO codes out to the AIARE providers ahead of time. But students get the information on the back end so they can kind of fiddle around once they've been through the course and know a little bit more about how they might integrate some mapping tools into their trip planning. And then otherwise, students do get offers directly from our partners to help them build out their safety equipment and other soft goods, and that all comes directly from AIARE. So I know there's some suggested language that's sent out there to you all, but AIARE does correspond pretty significantly with the students, not only with getting your certificate, but also ongoing resources, including discounts from our partners. So always good to mention to the students to take a look out for an email from AIARE following the completion of their course.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Vickie. So yeah, like Vickie said, we have Gaia info that's not quite here yet. So we'll get that updated shortly. The online learning resources, like I said, this is just your code, and you can find those right here on your provider resources page. And then I put together this video resource for providers on how to use the online learning, but I'll kind of just run through that here with y'all today, and hopefully that'll answer a lot of your questions if you have any. And this is that link to share with students again. And then these are just, this is just sample text. So just written text that you're welcome to include in your pre-course emails. And then this is written instructions on how you can follow up on your student progress with online learning. Okay, so that is what I have for the provider resources page. Let's go back to the dashboard.
Sarah, I'm just going to interrupt for 1 second. We had our participant type in a question, and I did answer it back to him, but I thought it was a great question just to draw everybody's attention to. Ken was asking if our student manual has changed this year from the previous edition last year. I know a lot of people print resources ahead of time or order a significant number of field books and then don't always use those in the same season. So it's a great question. The student manual has not changed last year to this year, with the exception of acknowledging our partners. We did add a handful of partners this year, and then those partners put ads in the handbook that do have special offers. But again, we send those all to students afterwards, so that's okay. The other, like, meat and potatoes curriculum content of the student manual has not changed this year, so you can go ahead and use last year's manual. Similar with the field books, we did a couple of changes to help users use those new blue books. We changed from Write in the Rain to Pick to Stone last year. So there were some changes in the book last year, but you can continue to use both the student manual and the field book that you purchased or printed last year this year with no significant interruption to your students.
Awesome. Thank you, Vickie. Okay, so back to our dashboard. I'm going to just draw your attention over here to this box on the right side. Don't miss these recent newsletters. We have just general public newsletters at the top, and then you can see AIARE Provider Update. All of the newsletters toward the bottom of the list are newsletters that are specific for you. And so it's really important that you, as your administrator of your AIARE Providership, stays on top of these newsletters, because sometimes we have some important reminders or important changes that might affect you in those newsletters. So please stay on top of those. And if you aren't receiving them, please just let me know. We'd be happy to get you on that list. And like I said, if you miss them, you can always just find them right here. And then we have a provider FAQ here. And if you don't find the answer to anything, I'm also always available to answer any questions that you have. And then right here, these 3 resources are referenced in the provider agreement. And so we just ask that you agree to our code of conduct as far as how you represent AIARE. And then the course avalanche risk management guidance and the AIARE operational avalanche risk management plan are resources for you. We're not asking that you follow them. You haven't agreed to that in the provider agreement. It's mainly just here to be a resource. So this is guidance for you to build your own risk management plan. And then this is just our risk management plan that you're welcome to use as a kind of a template for your own, if that's helpful for you. And you, if you have any questions about that, let us know. And we've already talked about provider info. On the provider status requirements page, instructions to pay provider dues will just take you right back to this dashboard here, where you can actually click here to pay provider dues and check out. And then let's circle back around to adding courses and adding rosters. Instead, let's kind of go to the student online learning. So once you're in the online learning, you can, let me just back up. So students, when they're not logged in, they can find a banner at the top of our website to start their online learning. And that's where they'll enter their code at checkout, the code that you've provided them. And once they're already logged in, that banner goes away. As you can see, I don't have it up here. And instead, they can start their online learning right here from their dashboard. And if they've already checked out with the code, then they'll be able to access or re-access right from where they've left off right here on their dashboard. There will be a list of courses here where they can start and finish their online learning. And same for you, if you have opted to preview the online learning using the Prova codes, then you'll be able to access those courses here as well, so that you know exactly what your students are going to be going through. So if you have chosen to use the online learning to meet your required classroom hours to help meet your learning objectives, then you and your instructors are required to follow up that they've actually completed that. So some providers choose to use the online learning just as like an additional resource, but they're also covering their classroom hours in person or in other ways. So if it's just meant to be an additional resource for students, you obviously don't have to make sure that they've completed that online learning. But if you are using that as one of the sole ways to meet learning outcomes through asynchronous learning, then you do have to follow up on that. And that's why we have this student management portal here. And I just wanted to be clear that the student management portal is not related in any way. It doesn't link up in any way to the rosters that we're asking you to upload to us. It would be really fancy if we had it set up that way, and maybe we can get there in the future, but unfortunately it's not set up that way. So this is just like kind of a side portal for you to just check up on your students, and you'll just use this search bar right here, type in name, email, or any search parameters that you have for the person. I think Emma Walker, our program manager, is a very exemplary student. She has completed all 3 of the online learning courses. And so you see that I just clicked add to my students, and now she's appearing up here. And you can see that she's completed 100%. So she's met those learning outcomes. Sarah MacGregor is a less exemplary student, and she's only completed 13% of the AIARE 2. And so I'm going to add that student, and, I might have to follow up with this student and be like, hey, yeah, where you at? Like, we need you to finish this. And so you can continue to add students if they haven't. Most students will not have signed up for all 3 of the online courses, and therefore not all 3 of them may not appear here when you add them to your list. But they'll stay in the order that you add them. So if you have multiple courses going at one time, I would suggest adding like the first roster first, so that they're kind of grouped all the way at the top of the list, and then second roster second. And then once the course is finished and you've checked off that they've completed what they needed to, you'll just use this red X to remove them from your list and add students and remove students as you need. Any questions or additions on that, Vickie?
Not so far.
Okay, great, cool. So that's the student management portal. Nope, let's go back to the dashboard here. Great. So now let's go into adding courses and editing rosters, all of that fun stuff. So to add your courses for the season, you can just click add a course. And this is a form for you to fill out, adding one course at a time. Note that at the bottom, the adding the instructors is not a required field. Not yet at this point in the process, which might be pretty important for you because you might not really know who's going to teach these courses quite yet at this point in the process. Note that if you can't find an instructor in these dropdowns, that means that they're not current yet, and you'll just ask them to log into their instructor dashboard and click on instructor status requirements to finish what they need to be current. So alternatively, I do offer a one-time bulk course upload per provider per season. So if you, that upload spreadsheet template should have been provided to you in one of our newsletters. And if you're having a hard time tracking that down and you haven't yet taken advantage of it, I'm more than happy to support you in that way. Hopefully that particularly if you have a lot of courses, it can be pretty helpful to just be able to add all of your courses in one spreadsheet and then have that one-time bulk course upload. I just ask that any changes or additions or deletions after that one-time bulk course upload, I just ask that you make those from your end. And so that can be done on the view and edit courses link. And this is where we handle everything else of managing our providership here. So as you can see, we are running a couple of courses on our demo account this year, and we we have one course from last year that we were bad and we have not paid those student fees yet. As you can see, student fees are in cart, and I just want to go to cart. This is where you can process your payment for student fees or anything else, but let me just remove that so that you can see what it looks like when it hasn't been added to cart. It says pay student fees here. So if you have a lot of courses and you're going in at the end of the month to pay your student fees, I like to use the browser search function. So I have a Mac, and so I type Command F, and then I type in pay student fees to find every occurrence of courses that I owe fees on. And then I just go through and I click pay student fees, and it'll add to cart one at a time. You just kind of have to wait, and then now those student fees are in my cart. And once I've added all of those, then I'll navigate to my cart and finish checkout. One thing to keep in mind with this web page is that it should order your courses from like later courses to earlier courses. And if you've been a provider for a long time, this list can get pretty long. So every once in a while, there's kind of like a little bit of an upload, a finicky upload of your course list. So you might just select the column, the date column, to make sure that it's organized by date, just in case it's not, but usually it is. So once we go to our cart, we can just proceed to check out. And I just want to draw your attention to this, that a lot of providers have different like accounting systems, and sometimes you can't just like pay with a card or pay with check from this checkout page. Sometimes you are with your accounting department, you have to submit an invoice. And so if you have a PO number, purchase order number, then you'll just add it to the notes section here before you place your order. But otherwise, you can just select pay by invoice as your payment method and place your order. And then a digital invoice will be sent to you by email to whatever email is listed in the billing details on this side of the screen. Credit card transactions incur a 4.5% fee. And so you can avoid that by selecting direct transfer, check, by direct transfer or check. So you can mail a check to us. Just make sure that you're processing this order early enough so that we receive the check before the payment deadline. And the payment deadline is by the last day of the month that follows the month during which the course took place. So if your course took place, like if the end date of your course was January 30th, then your student fees wouldn't be owed until the last day of February. So we do ask that you upload your rosters to us within 2 weeks, but then pay those fees by the end of the month that follows. Direct transfer, this year we have brought back Zelle into the mix. So if you do have Zelle, you are welcome to initiate your Zelle payment to Vickie's email address. Or if you don't have Zelle, but your bank still has a way to initiate direct transfers, then just reach out to us and we'd be happy to provide our account details to you so that you can use direct transfer as an option. Any questions coming in or anything to add, Vickie?
Yeah, there's one question regarding adding instructors to a roster. To lead a rescue course, the course leader may not necessarily show up in the pull-down menu, correct? The course leaders in the pull-down list are just for level 1 and level 2 courses only.
That is such a great question, and thank you so much for bringing that up. Yeah, so if the you can, as an instructor, lead a rescue course on your own, as long as you have a pro membership with the American Avalanche Association. And if you're not a course leader, then that means you won't be in that course leader dropdown. But for rescue courses only, you are not required to have a course leader selected at all. So if it was an instructor who led that rescue course, then you'll just leave the course leader field empty. And instead, your first instructor would be the instructor who led the rescue course. Does that answer the question?
I believe so. I'll let you know if there's a follow-up.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
Wonderful. Okay, so let's go back to the view and edit courses page. So that's paying your student fees. And we're kind of a little out of order because you won't be able to pay your student fees until you've added the roster, because it's a per student fee. And so we don't know how much to charge you until you've added the roster, right? So before you add a roster, I would recommend going to the course and just making sure that you have enough instructors added, because the student won't be able to receive their certificate until enough instructors are added to the course. So make sure you go into edit details, and this edit details screen looks exactly like the add a course screen that we've already seen. And now we're just going to go down and add our course leader if it's relevant, if it's not a rescue course, or our instructors here. And you also have to have an appropriate number of instructors added to the roster before you'll be able to complete the the roster part of the process. So just to recap, y'all probably already know this, but our ratio is 6 to 1, so 6 students to 1 instructor. Every course needs a course leader. So the maximum number of students that can be on any course is 24, and therefore 4 instructors, 3 instructors and 1 course leader are the max instructors that you would have on a course. And then our ratio for any observers that you might have is 1 observer per instructor on the course. So if there's only 12 students, 2 instructors, then there's only allowed 2 observers. And so now let's get.
Sarah, can I interrupt? If you are uploading your roster and maybe you could go back down to the details. Those are pull down lists with the course leaders and instructors. And so what you'll see is everybody who's in our system who is a current course leader or instructor. And if the person that is working for your operation is not on that list, it means that they're not current. And so going into the season, it's really important that all of your course leaders and instructors are current, which means that they've paid the $30 instructor dues, they've signed that COI, and they've uploaded their continuing education proof for the year.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Vickie. So yeah, here's the drop down that you'll be selecting from, and you can use search parameters by typing on your keyboard the first few letters of the name. And all you have to do, if you don't find their name on that list, then you'll just reach out. You can just reach out to that instructor and ask them to log into their apptraining.org instructor profile. And similar to how you see provider status requirements right here, it'll show the exact same thing for instructors. And I did just want to let you guys know, you all know that we made this a lot easier for instructors this year. And we can talk more about that maybe at the end if you have questions, but there's a really easy form now that instructors can just click on and select from a bunch of drop downs and submit, and that will kind of meet that CE requirement for them. So now they don't have to go through the process of downloading a spreadsheet and exporting it to a PDF and those finicky technology things. Hopefully it's a little bit more streamlined for instructors now. Okay, so editing the roster is the last thing we have on the list. So as you can see, it already let me know that I don't have a course leader on this course, so I'm not going to be able to save this roster. You can add students information one at a time, or you can add them in bulk using this AIARE roster template right here. When you click on this, file will download as a zip file, and you'll just open that in whatever spreadsheet editing program that you use. I use Google Sheets. I just find it really useful for me. And so this is what the spreadsheet looks like, and you'll just overwrite these kind of templated entries with your own student roster information. And then if you have any questions, here are some instructions right here, but some important things to keep in mind is that you can't reorder any of these columns. The system won't really read it quite right. And you can't rename any of the columns. Again, you might just have a little bit of an upload error. So just kind of keep everything as it is and just fill in your student information. What is required is the first and last name, student type, and then the completed column is also required. This year, you will be charged a student fee whether or not the student completed the course. And this is just so that if a student didn't complete the course and they're intending to complete it later in the season, this gives you a little bit more flexibility so that if you so that you won't be charged a late fee if there's just one student fee missing. So that's why we are charging for incomplete students now. So you're welcome to notate that here in whatever way you like. Just know that the student won't have access to retrieve their certificate until the completed column is either checked or marked as true on this spreadsheet. So like I said, first name, last name, student type, and completed columns are all what's required. If you're able to provide us with more information, this helps us. We do a lot of data collection, and it really helps us understand who we are serving and who we're not serving as far as demographic information goes. So the more information, the better. But I just want to let you know, if you don't have any information about like their location or anything like that, it's not required. The email is not required, but it is highly recommended. As many of you most likely already know, this email address will serve as their username, and this is how they access their certificate on our avtraining.org website later. So as soon as the roster has been uploaded and the completed box is marked as checked, they will be able to either create an account if they haven't already, or log in to their account and just click classes and certificates from their dashboard and access their certificate. If they don't have an email address, then that means that they don't have a login, and to access their certificate, they would have to contact us directly. So once you have this spreadsheet filled out, you'll just export it to CSV. And then you can just add from CSV right here. Go to downloads. And it looks like it leaves that blank entry, and you can just use that X to remove any blank entry, and your student roster is added. Because I do not have a course leader added, even though true was marked in the completed column, if there's not an appropriate number of instructors, it just won't let me check that box until I've added a course leader and appropriate number of instructors. So that's kind of a little hang up. And then you'll just click save. And you have to wait until you receive a new notification. If you have enough instructors, this notification will be green and it'll say success, you saved it. But just make sure that you get a notification before you navigate away from the webpage. Any questions or additions, Vickie?
Not from the group, but it seems like adding the course leader and the instructors to your course is a good first step before you then add the students in, so you don't get any of these errors or incompletes.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, this is everything I have for you. And I would love to see if there are any questions from anybody that we weren't able to address.
None in the chat, and I don't see any hands raised.
Okay.
Sarah, can you remind some folks, I know that you've worked really hard over the last couple of years to create some resources in case folks do have questions. Where does that FAQ live? And I know that you've created some video tutorials. Could you either show or just let people know where those things live?
Yes, thank you for saying that. So let's go to the provider FAQ. So there's a lot of information on this provider FAQ page that I highly recommend y'all check out if you have any questions. And I am also very happy to be a resource for you if you feel daunted by this extensive FAQ. And as far as adding rosters go, you might have noticed I didn't draw attention to it, but when we go back into this edit roster, I have created a tutorial right here that I recommend you check out if you're a little bit confused by the adding a roster process. Highly recommend you check out this video tutorial. And then other than that, other video tutorials that I've put together are one for the student, for you to share with your student to access the online learning, and then one for you to be able to understand kind of how the online learning works, as far as how you as a provider interact with it. So that video tutorial for you is linked here on the dashboard, and it's also linked on the provider resources page. And if you have any recommendations for other tutorials that you'd love to see, please let us know.
Great. Thanks for putting all those together, Sarah. If folks read through the FAQs and they look through those videos and they still have questions, what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, so most email addresses funnel to me, help@avtraining.org, contact@avtraining.org. I check those regularly. But then my personal email address is Sarah, SARAH, @avtraining.org. So that's AV and then the word training.org.
And then AIARE's phone number also goes directly to Sarah as well. So she's just a phone call away, Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, I don't see any other questions from the group, so I will just go ahead and remind everyone that we do have a couple of upcoming webinars that count as your AIARE, CE for the year, but they're also just really great resources. We just had a webinar earlier this week with all of our mapping partners talking about their different platforms and how you might integrate them into your AIARE courses. That's available on our YouTube channel. We have another one with our safety equipment beacon manufacturers this week, talking about the different beacons that they have out there on the market and what they want your students to know. So go ahead and head on over to that continuing education website and get registered for all of those. And then if you would like to give us feedback on this or any of our other webinars, we would definitely love to hear from you. If you ever have any suggestions for topics that are either education oriented or more operations or administrative oriented, we'd be happy to hear those and see what we can create for you all. Otherwise, thank you so much for being here. Hopefully this was helpful, and yeah, we're wishing you guys all a really great snowy, successful winter ahead.
Thank you all so much for joining in.